Michael said that when he saw me for the first time, he knew I was special and he had to meet me. August 25th, 1995 is still the one and only time in his life he asked out a woman he didn't already know. I remember him later saying I was the most beautiful person he had ever seen in real life. His words, as they so often do, made me feel special. When he introduced himself, he seemed confident to me, but I've since learned he was so nervous that he dodged his chance a couple of times by passing right by me. As we shook hands, I could tell he considered me to be his equal. I felt respected in that moment, and I've never since felt anything less. I could sense that he had approached me not just because he thought I was pretty. Later, I learned that while my smile really got his attention, he felt intrigued by something beyond that smile. After a walk through Summerfest, we spent that first evening talking for 3 hours in what he realized was the best conversation he had ever had. He remembers being mesmerized, and I recall allowing myself to dream of a future I had never considered before.
Michael and Kariana, the church shares your joy and warmly welcomes you. Together with your family and friends, as today, in the presence of God our Father, you establish between yourselves a lifelong covenant. That's why I don't think it's accidental that Jesus' first miracle is at a wedding feast. It's not accidental that when we look at creation, we see the birds, the bees, the flowers, and the trees, and they all sing of conjugal union. It's not accidental that you look at the sun, and there's the moon. You look at the rocky shoreline, and then there's the gentle waters. All of creation speaks of complementarity, speaks of two opposites drawn together into a dynamic spark. Man, woman, coming together in a union. It is my honor to introduce to you Mr. and Mrs. Telkamp.
Over the next week, we spent as much time together as possible, sharing our thoughts and stories before I had to return to college. When he held me the night before I left, he remembers I said, "This is nice. We should have been doing this earlier in the week." So it was exactly 1 week after our first date that he left me a precious card of a little boy offering a rose to a little girl. Inside, in his unique handwriting, it simply said, "Will you marry me?" There in my cubicle, I cried. In his mostly rhetorical question, I felt his longing for a world where things are as they should be, without the many complications in our way. I became very familiar with that full flowing cursive during that school year, while I learned all about his family and friends and how important they all were to him. Different from any other young people I knew, he spent much of his time thinking about them, checking in with them, and sharing their news. It was beautiful to see how much he valued his loved ones. The next summer, we spent all our free time together, split between our two beautiful small towns, sharing the significance of the places in our past. We walked through nature parks and held hands at the county fair, and we went for rides on bikes and in his little red convertible with the top down, of course. We played softball, attended weddings, and visited each other's families and church services. The sweetest moments we shared, beside the river, under the stars, in the middle of the empty street, have often come to my mind over the years. But life gets complicated. Despite those happy months together, it took 24 years for us to truly be a couple.
We're gonna be alright. I'm yours, you're mine. Our love is once in a lifetime. We're gonna be alright, even on the line, 'cause our love is once in a lifetime.
I'm really happy that we got Carrie and Mark married more than I thought. I like this.
I got closer to Carrie and I knew she was the one for my dad. We love you. You are the best person possible for our dad, and we just appreciate you so much. So we love you guys and welcome to the family.
During one conversation in which we agreed it felt like we had won the lottery with this second chance at love, Michael realized something else, and later he told me, with tears in his eyes, the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Even if we had never found each other again, just meeting me and spending those few weeks together so long ago was enough to always feel like he had won the jackpot. We will forever be grateful for that moment in 2020 when God revealed the truth to me and the curtains of my mind opened, allowing me to love Michael as he had already loved me 25 years before.